Good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 12th lesson of how to sculpt a dragon. Oh, you know, I forgot to do something here. There we go. All right. So last session, we created the armature for our wings, and we did the full breakdown on how to build the structure for the entire wing. And now we're going to go through and actually sculpt the wing. So, yeah. We made the wings detachable from the character, and you're going to see why that's going to come in handy. Now, normally with something like a wing, there's a lot of almost a lot of stages of baking, typically. I'm going to try to not do those, so that way we can move forward with the lesson. And I'll let you know when I would stop and bake. For the sake of the class, I'm gonna continue forward, of course, and essentially sculpt one whole side of the wing before it gets baked for the first time. So let's get into it. Let's get into it. Okay. Let me change. I could change my filter here. There we go. Okay, so we built this armature here. What we're gonna do now is we're going to remove it from the dragon, and that way we can just work with this directly. Let me grab some pliers here. Pretty tight fitting. There we go. Now to make life easier on myself, let's put this over here now. I'm gonna use some hemostats. All right. Gonna secure this into some hemostats. Gives us something to hold on to. Okay. I'm just deciding if I should start this side first or this side. Probably gonna be easier to do this inside section first. So there's a few ways I've done wings this way, where so you put clay around the armature. That's right. So I've done it before where I start with the membrane part of the wing first, and then I bake it, and then I do the kind of the limbs in, usually in a couple sections. But I think today what we're going to do is we're going to just start by covering this whole side with clay. And then we'll go from there. So I already got some clay conditioned here. We're just going to run it through the pasta machine. pretty thin setting. We don't want it to get too thick here. You're a believer now? The hot glue is so sturdy. Yeah, it's strange that it just becomes very sturdy. I was skeptical of it at first as well, don't worry. It'd be hard to find a method that works as well as that. Because we want the sturdiness, but we also want it to be thin. You know, we want this, we don't want to get this membrane part too thick, so. But yeah, it's very, very easy to sculpt on, you know. All right, so got our clay here. Let's get some clay glue. We're just gonna paint it on the inside here. Now, you always have to be careful when you use hot glue. Whenever you bake your hot glue part, always make sure you put some foil down. Otherwise, you end up with hot glue in the bottom of your oven. Okay, so now we will layer the clay here onto our glued surface. Noted, yeah, don't forget that part. Just gonna put it on there like this. It's not gonna want to stick at first, but just kind of get it in position. Once it makes contact with the glue will start doing its job. Just takes a minute. So we're just pushing it down. You don't want to do any like sliding movements. Until it gets really secured down. So I did a 3 on the pasta machine, which is pretty thin. You want to be careful not to do too thick of a layer on your pasta machine. Otherwise your wing will get way too thick. I like to, at the edges, I like to kind of pinch and pull to make those edges even thinner. Okay. If you can do it without creating a seam line, it just makes life easier on you. We ended up having to create one. But it's definitely better if you can not have to do a seam line. Okay, so that'll be my first step is I'm gonna get rid of the seam line. Just blend it away with the tool. Check it to make sure there's no air bubbles. Oh, there's a little bit. All right, very good. Does it weaken the build? No. No, it's just more tooling work you have to do. Well, let's see. Let me position this better so I can. There we go. Take a zip. So I'm just gonna let that kind of sit just for a second. The clay is absorbing the glue and getting really sticky and sticking itself to that that aluminum foil, because the aluminum foil is a slick surface, so you do want to be careful not to smooth it too radically, because it'll cause it to slip away from the surface. Okay, so now the wing is broken up into two different parts, or two kind of main sections. It's the skin membrane part in between and the limbs. And there's all kinds of different ways we can approach those. But I think it'll be easier if we texture and finish the membrane part first, the skin, and then we just simply lay a new layer of material on top to do the limbs. Let's see here. We also have to decide, okay, what parts are going to have scales and what parts are going to kind of look like skin. Lots of decisions to make. Okay. But first we know what we need to do with the membrane. So we can see where our armature is kind of where those fingers of the wing are going to go. So let us we'll start with the big lines first. So I'm going to use kind of a blunter ended tool here, and we're going to just draw some elongated squiggly X lines between. This texture will be built up with many different layers. We're just starting with these bigger lines. And then we want to do a lot of brushing to make it look organic. All right, I'm gonna I flipped it upside down so I could come at it from the other angle so I could really get the start of the line here. All right, let's just do this step on all these sections here. Same step. So I'm just you twist your wrist a little bit as you make these lines to change up the direction. So that way the lines intersect and you don't end up with a bunch of parallel lines. Again, we go upside down here. Now this area, the arm is probably going to go to about here. The anatomy. All right, notice how the direction of my lines changed and flowed with the bend of the arm here. That's because this panel is not quite fully extended like these ones are. Not stretched out. Okay. So now we're going to do our first round of brushing. Get some fresh alcohol here first. All right, we're gonna really aggressively brush with the flow of the lines because we want this to really blend in. So see, I'm pushing the brush down really hard. Not hard enough to displace the clay. You know, we don't want it sliding off of the armature. But we want these lines to kind of all mush together. We'll go at it from both directions here. All right. Now we'll do the next layer of texture. Now I like to use this tool here, which if you don't have one, you could always make one, or you can use just something else that makes lines. But this is a wire brush that's got very loose wires, you know. They kind of scrape across the surface really lightly. And what we're going to do is we're going to do kind of an X pattern quite a bit over these larger lines that we already did here. So it's like a squiggly X motion. Kind of going with that same flow that we already established. Now this tool just multiplies the speed. You could do this with a singular piece of wire if that's all you have. It's going to take you a little bit longer. bit harder to reach into. All right, and now we go back over with our alcohol. This time we're not going to brush as ruggedly. You want to just brush just enough to get rid of the harsh tool marks. We want the lines to be blended in but not disappear completely. So. At this point, we could just keep going back and forth with adding more lines and brushing until you have your desired skin texture result. And then once that's done, what I would typically do is I would cut away the material of these sections that are not part of the skin membrane, and then I would bake it. And then after it's baked, then I would go in and I'm going to start sculpting the actual anatomy here. And you might do the wing membrane part on both sides and then start doing the in-between areas. But we're not going to bake it because for the sake of the class here, we're just going to pretend like it's baked and continue forward. So I will do one more round of the lines on the skin. I want to see, maybe we can add some vertical lines going like this. Sometimes this helps sell that illusion of skin texture. Go back over this way. Go and brush once more. No, I will not sculpt the other side. That's too difficult to. Um, I'm just gonna do one side for you guys for the class, because typically anytime you switch sides, you would always bake in between, and that locks in the work, so that way you don't have to worry about messing it up. Because if I would flip over to this side here and try to do all that on this side, it's just too difficult, because it's easy if I can push from the other side and kind of hold it steady while I do all this texture work. I could make it happen, to be honest, but it would be just a nightmare to sculpt that way. So we're just gonna do one side here. And just know that when you're doing the other side of the wing, it's the same steps. You're just doing it on the other side. I'm gonna trim off some of this bottom material here. Let's kind of clean up our edges. In fact, I might make this edge go up a little bit more. If we just kind of go like this. Let's see. Let's do that over here too, a little bit more. Working on a monster clay portrait, trying a CNET level, the hair job, which is quite not easy. The brushing process is really finicky. Brushing, like are you brushing with a solution over your texture? Okay. Yeah, it's gonna react differently with monster clay than it will with polymer clay. Probably more resilient to the brushing actually doing anything. That's just because you're using a different kind of clay. It does work. It is similar, but... And also, the difficulty with hair is to brush it enough to smoothen it out, but not too much where it ruins your shapes, you know, makes your hair look like it's flesh or something instead of hair. So I'm gonna pinch this edge down, kind of taper it so it's going to the skinniest possible here. So later when we cut that foil away, it'll be really thin on the edge. I'm gonna redefine this line here. Use lemon oil. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. Monster clay is a bit different than the clay that I normally use, but you might want to try an approach where you don't have to do any type of brushing. The way the clay responds is the methods I use for hair is not going to work with that clay. A different approach will be needed, I think. Okay, I'm gonna redo my line work here along this edge. Since this is a younger dragon, I'm not doing any rips or tears in the wing, but if you want to do that on your dragon, this would be the time to do it. You would just cut little holes and just rework the texture back in around those areas, just like I'm doing here. For the texture, I mean, you have to figure out the shape of the hair. So pretend like you're sculpting the Lego version of the hair, and you add that material or that mass, and make the Lego version of it. And then you really have to think about, okay, where does the hair actually go? Where does it run? And make those lines from point A to point B, and don't let your lines cross each other. So that's the difficult part, because when you're doing your line work and you're building up those textures, if the lines cross, it doesn't look like hair anymore. Okay. And so it starts off as Lego hair, then you do the lines, all the parallel running lines from the root to the end of the shape. Then you go back in and you make the lines deeper in certain areas, and you kind of push and move the lines around. So say there's like a little bit of waviness in the hair. Don't try and do your lines wavy. Just do your lines straight, all parallel straight, and then go in with the tool and make them wavy later. Does that make sense? That's one thing I discovered is it's better to just let me do a quick little demo for you here. So we start with our Lego hair, right? We got our Lego hair here. There's a piece of Lego hair. And then once you have the shape or the mass of the hair looking right, then we go in and we do the parallel running lines all the way to the end. Just go slow with it, and don't worry about the depth of the lines. We just want the lines to be parallel. And then we go in with a tool and we add depth. And then you can kind of lift separation, add that waviness. Come in here. Yeah, you can make it wavy and add that negative space in there. And really, you're pushing it way further than you think it needs to go, because there is a lot of air inside of hair. Bring the air in the hair. And you're just kind of looking over it and saying, okay, which areas are reading kind of flat, or too much like a mass, and you're just continuing to add and push around these layers. Then you can mix in some additive method where you add little strands of hair. But yeah, that's the basic idea. And you could go back in and do like the line underneath here that goes like this. Take it as far as you want. Break up some of the bigger areas with some more lines. Towards the end, I would add additive pieces of hair to make the separation of the mass into like individual strands. But see, I'm relying a lot on the stretchiness of the polymer clay. This is the beard of our dragon here. Just goes like this. Actually would work, wouldn't it? A bearded dragon. Just kidding. Alright, back to the wing. Hopefully that helps. Okay, so now we pretended we baked this. No, don't worry, don't worry. We've pretended that this has been baked. And we've locked in our skin texture, but before you bake it, cut away the areas that are not developed. So like, you know, this section right here. Let me just cut it. Let me just show you what that would look like. You know, I'm just gonna cut this away because we want to maintain the thinness of our wing. This. So you'd cut it here, you'd cut it there, you'd cut all this stuff on the outside off, so you just have these kind of floating pieces of membrane, right? Then you bake it, then you get it out of the oven, and then you can start doing now we'll start doing the anatomy of the arm. So I'm not gonna sculpt the shoulder, okay? We're gonna kind of start with the bicep. There should be a shoulder here, but we're not gonna worry about this area so much because we will add the wing to the dragon and then sculpt the shoulder and right onto the dragon at the very end. So let's just build up this anatomy here. So usually we have like a shoulder muscle going like here. Okay. Then there's kind of like a bicep. Goes right into the crook of the arm there, and then usually kind of twists around and meets up with the shoulder right there. And now we fill out the forearm. Now it's easy to get too buff with your dragon arm wings, so just make sure you don't go too crazy with the anatomy. Double, triple check, make sure it's not getting too meaty. Now you should be doing both sides at the same time with this anatomy. Because what you should do is sculpt this wing mesh, okay? Bake it. Do the wing mesh on the other side and bake it again. Then now you're scoping back in and you're sculpting this anatomy here, and you can touch these parts without worrying about messing it up. So, and then that will allow you to sculpt both sides. Okay. So you'll break this up into as many sections as you want. I think usually I would go to about here and I would fully detail this section and then bake it again, and then I would sculpt this kind of area here, bake it again, and then I would do this, bake it, this, bake it, and then this, bake it, depending on how detailed those parts are. But that's typically how I would approach doing the dragon wings. Okay, put this clay here. Now, normally there's kind of like a claw at the top here, which is kind of like a thumb. I'm just going to sculpt in almost like an armature for it, and then we'll when you do the fingers, now you don't do both sides at once. You always want to be working on, because you always had to think about where you're going to hold. So like, let's say you do the fingers here, holding here is going to be needed, you know. Like when I work on this side here, I have my hands on the back side, you know, so that way it's just much more comfortable to work on. So you just want to do, when you're doing these ones, just do them one side at a time. The reason you do the outside edge, both sides at the same time, is because you can see both sides. Like, it's hard to break it up in half like this. You know, like you're missing kind of the whole shape. You could sculpt it in half, but it might end up looking weird, the anatomy, you know. So it's just easier to figure out the anatomy if you're doing both the sides, since they're both visible at the same time, both of those sides. Okay, let's make this skinnier. Yeah, just worrying about the shape of this, because we'll sculpt on top of it. It's like a little finger with one segment, almost like a thumb. That's all I'll do with that. And then when it gets baked, I can go over this with a layer of clay and actually do the detail. very easy to go too thick on these wing parts. All right, now let's blend in our anatomy. So we're just gonna blend in all these parts that we've added. I'll show you kind of how I do the detail and how I do the kind of the transition from the anatomy to that that wing mesh material. Now, when you're blending these into the already baked wing mesh, you can paint a little bit of clay glue on that seam line, and that'll help you smooth it into the. It'll smooth together as if they're both raw clay, pretty easily with the clay glue. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, I'm not gonna go all the way down here because I just want to demonstrate to you guys what needs to be done here. I'm not gonna do the whole thing here. You'll get the gist from just this upper area. Okay, I'm gonna add some deeper lines here, kind of like how the forearm muscles are on a human. Gonna run my finger along the line that will separate those shapes. Can you give a reason you have a preference for cosplay and how it differs from Sculpting? Yes, I sure can. Let me grab my reason really quick here. There we go. Here is the reason it is better, in my opinion. The finished baked product is flexible like rubber. See that? So this is a baked piece of clay. Totally very tough. Shatterproof. Whereas Sculpey is not. Sculpey will, if you try to do that with a piece of baked Sculpey, it's just immediately snaps, cracks and crumbles. So, as somebody who makes very detailed things that I ship all over the world, it's very nice to know that what I'm making is not just gonna, break when somebody looks at it the wrong way. So. And to be honest, once, other than that, they're very similar with the way that you work the material and all that stuff. Sounds like it's superior then? Yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. It's not like some small preference or anything. It's a big deal. That you make something out of Sculpey, it's very fragile. You make something out of cast clay, it's not very fragile. Especially because cost-wise, it's about the same as well. There's really no reason not to use cast clay if you can get it where you're from. Okay, so now I would start kind of doing the scales. Yeah, it's very similar. Obviously, it has a little bit different of a feel to it, but any clay has its own feel. And there's always going to be that stage at the beginning where you have to kind of get used to the way it moves and works. Can you mix cast clay with other polymer clay like bees putty? I'm sure you could. I've mixed it with other clays before to see if it works. If it's, as long as it's polymer clay, it will mix together. But as far as like the results, will it maintain its bendiness and all that stuff? Probably depends on like the mixture and all kinds of different things. So. Arnold is a genius. That's right. Much less cracking with cast clay. Yeah, that's true too. So like, there's other issues that Sculpey has, that cast clay doesn't have because of the flexibility, and a lot of it is like while you're building something with Sculpey, a lot of times you'll get these you'll get these hairline fractures throughout your work, or what they call mooning, which is like these little, almost like little fractures essentially. You don't get any of that with cast clay because of that flexibility. So the stress of the project being made doesn't cause problems while you're making it. I use medium firm. Yeah, I think that's a good place to start. And if you find it to be too soft, you can always go a grade up to the extra firm, or if it's too firm, you can go grade down to the soft. Okay, so now I'm just going to mark some lines for these scales to kind of follow. It's like guidelines. Yeah, no problem. The extra firm, yeah, and I think a lot of people. So I know I have a preference towards softer clay, and yeah, I could see a lot of people liking the extra firm more. I used to like firmer clays, but as I progressed, I find myself liking the clay to be a bit softer. I think it's just because it's a control thing. When you develop the control of the material, softer becomes more desired because you can work with it faster. I'm exclusively extra firm. Okay, yeah. Oh yeah. So I'm just pushing these scales in here. Just riding that tool along those lines I made, creating that overlap. It's good though. It's good to get to work with different materials and get used to them, because you want your skills to not be limited to needing it to be the material to be a specific way. You want to be adaptable. That's what will allow you to pick up, like epoxy clay and make something nice. Because epoxy clay is really not fun to sculpt with. It's not a desirable texture, and the way it moves around is not very nice. But if you're adaptable, because there are very good uses for epoxy clay. So make a very good case to switch to Costco to give it a try. Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Just be aware that there's going to be a stage of a transition stage, where if you've been working with one type of material and you use a different material that feels a little bit different, of course you're gonna like the material you've been working with more. But if you can push past that and get over that hump, you might find you like this material even more, texture-wise. You just have to kind of give yourself that time to become familiar with it, like you are with Sculpting. I see this same thing happen with tools, to be honest, where you'll get a tool and you're not proficient with that tool, so to you it'll seem like not as good of a tool as the tools you are proficient with. But in reality, it's actually better. That tool's better for the job. You just haven't gotten proficient with it yet. I find epoxy easier to get a high polished texture, but I really hate the clock ticking. Well, yeah, because you can polish. Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, but it's also because you can polish it uh, after it's been cured quite well. You know, it sands really easily and stuff. You can do the same with polymer clay, but I definitely think epoxy clay sands a little bit easier. So I just went in. I kind of did the seam line between these two groups of scales here, and I'll do the same over here. Maybe decide if there's kind of like an overlapping row here. All right, that pretty much, you can see where this is going. And it'll just kind of continue all the way around the wing here. Now you can do these arms in the middle here. Could be more of like not scaled, but almost like the skin kind of drifts over. You know, it's almost like anatomy that you're seeing under the skin. And to kind of deal with these areas, you're going to take little pieces of clay like this. And kind of build up some kind of wrinkles a little bit. Especially in the area where the wing is more kind of condensed. You have these larger wrinkles. Not so much down here where the skin is more stretched. Hot air soldering station. Precision heat guns. I've seen those before. That's an interesting idea. All right, let's smooth these down. You see how that comes together? Then we would go, go back over with your skin texture, just like we did before on the membrane. All right. You'll add some claws at the bottom here. Don't forget those. And then also, one thing you can do here, I'll show you this. So remember, half from here to here is the halfway point. Okay, let's do this right here. There's a knuckle there. Then from here to here, there's this halfway point here. And what you can do is you can add a little bit of a bump to kind of show that there's this bending point here. Kind of like this. Same with right here. Those are kind of like your finger segments. And then we would blend those in. And then you do your scales on top. I'll probably add a little bit of material here. Now, when you add these claws here at the end, you can either add them, no, you'll add them when you actually do this exterior, so don't worry about it when you're doing this kind of skim membrane area. So, okay, so first step, do the skin membrane area on one side, bake it, then do it on the other side, bake it again. Then you're gonna sculpt this section to about here, okay? Fully texture and everything, bake it. Then kind of sculpt in this area or this region, like all this, bake it again, and then just do this here. Maybe do this, and this, bake, and then do the same thing on the other side. You'll do these two, because this should be sculpted on both sides. Okay, so this exterior limb part should be done in one go. And then at the end of that, you'll have your finished wing, and you can, after you bake this one for the first time, so after you do this side with the wing membrane, you can cut this aluminum foil back here on the back side. You'll cut it, and you don't want to cut it right to the edge. You actually want to cut the foil a little bit before the edge. So like kind of cut it up here on the back side. Make your cut. And then that way, when you're sculpting the wing membrane over on this side, you can blend it down to a point, down to this edge here, so that it really looks on the edge like it's super thin, you know. Because that's one thing I've learned is our perception of how thick something is, like a piece of flowing cloth or anything like the edge of this wing or the thickness of this wing will be determined by how the edge looks. So if it tapers to a nice fine edge, your brain just thinks that the whole thing is that thick. So I've learned this a lot with like big flowy cloaks and capes and stuff on my characters. Is I can make the rest of the cloak or cape really thick with a lot of material and structure underneath. As long as I taper it down to a really thin edge, then it'll read like it should, you know. But if the edge is really thick and like clunky, you know, really chubby edge, that's what's going to make it read wrong. So it's very important that we get that nice taper down on the edge there. So it'll make the wing read as it being thin. So all right, that's going to conclude the making of the wing. That should give you guys enough to finish the wings. So after you get the wing completely finished here, then you're going to attach it to the dragon and sculpt the shoulder area, maybe add some bigger scales there, maybe some spikier scales. That's the transition area between the dragon and the wing. And if you want the wings to be permanently attached, you can just simply imagine this wing is fully finished and baked. You stick it in place, and then you sculpt the shoulder right onto the dragon using clay glue, okay? And then you'll bake the whole dragon, and that will lock in the wing. If you want them to be detachable like I'm going to do, so it's easier to paint and work with the piece, you paint this whole area with the C1 separator. This stuff right here. Do 2 coats and let it dry. And then when my wing is completely finished, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stick it in place. I'm going to sculpt the shoulder and blend it into the dragon. And then this time when I bake it, I'm going to be able to remove the wing, and it's going to have a perfect seam line, you know. Thanks to the C1 separator, it won't stick. So that's what I'm going to do with mine. So we should have 2 finished wings, and next week we'll go over the tail. Next week is tail. We should probably only need 1 week for the tail. It's fairly simple. It's more of addressing the end of the tail and just kind of the way to do the shape and the scale pattern. The tails they're difficult. They're definitely a difficult part, but and then after that, so next week is tail. The week after that will be the base. We're gonna sculpt the base. So as you can see, I got a lot of homework, a lot of catching up to do here on my piece here. But yeah, we're gonna switch over to Discord first. Let me check here. Lou Simply Art, thank you very much for the Prime sub. I appreciate that. Do we have anything else today? Oh yeah, Fenrir, thank you for the 7 months, my friend. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, we have notifications turned off during class, but I am very thankful for you too. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna switch over to Discord. If you guys are if you're here for the first time and you're wondering what's going on, we do a live class every Sunday where we work through a whole project start to finish, and I'm being very much informative on exactly what to do with the process. And you are able to join Discord and post your work on. Hey Tom, thank you so much for the 22 months, my friend. Prime sub, I appreciate it. You can join our Discord and post your work there, and every week I also do live feedback. So if you're following along any of the tutorials, and you don't have to be caught up with where we're at on the class, because all these live streams are saved in a video format, and you can watch the videos when you have time and learn as you go. So feel free to join us with either this class or the previous class, which is how to sculpt a woodland gremlin. And you can post your work on Discord and get feedback every week. So let's see here. Let's get over to Discord. So if you're new with Discord, you'll click that link there in the chat and join. There we go. And when you get into the server here, you'll click on the rules tab, and you have to react to the rules if it's your first time there. That just will unlock all these channels. Now, it's pretty much just like a forum if you're not used to Discord. Each one of these tabs here is a different kind of category where you can post stuff. So here's Creative Corner. That's just for general creative stuff. But what we want is we want to go down here to where it says cnotbusch School. This is the general class info where you can find all the tools and materials and things I use during the classes. And then here's the dragon class. So if you're following the dragon class, you post here. And if you're following the gremlin class, you post here. And when you're done with a project that you've done in the class, you can post your final gallery shot here so we can see how everybody's doing. So take nice pictures and nice videos of your work, because that is what people see. The photos of your work and the videos are almost just as important as the work itself, because if you do a great job on a sculpture but then you take sloppy pictures and videos, that's what people see. They don't see the actual, they don't go into the room and see the sculpture in person most of the time, you know. Most of the time people will see your work through the photos. So do a good job there. Perhaps we should do a little there's a lot of really easy, quick tips you can apply to your photos to make them better for sculpture. So all right, let's go to dragon class first here. Let's go. Maybe we will do that. Let's see what everybody's up to here. All right, Clayton. The foil and hot glue method is legit. These are nice and sturdy and ready to be sculpted onto. Yeah. It's nothing like working on it. If you know the pain of working on a lousy armature, you appreciate having a nice sturdy armature to work off of. It just makes life so much nicer. Looks good. I like the size. That size works really good with your dragon, with the character. Oh yeah, that'll be nice. Should be a real smooth execution for you. Oh, look at this, getting some work on the tail, huh? Getting ahead of the class. I imagine you sketched it in just to see the volumes and how it works with the wings and stuff. Looking good. Real good there, Mr. Clayton. Some top-notch work. Okay, Mr. Brightside made some progress, loving the class and everybody's work. All right, let's see what we got here, Mr. Brightside. Oh man, I like the face design on yours. Really, it's got that whimsical kind type of dragon. Scale work's looking good on the chest here. Yep, you're well on the way. There we go. Belly scales. I like these little kind of like these like plated regions, this kind of theme you have throughout the piece. Yeah. Looking good. Keep it up there, Mr. Brightside. Okay, Alpha. Slow going, but I figured I'd post a progress pic. Let's see here. All right. Yeah, it's looking really good. It is Lagiacrus, isn't it? Or am I mistaken there? Maybe you should join us. It is okay. It is a dynamic pose. Yeah, I agree. Looks really good. Yeah, so if you want to be joining the live class, we will be starting another one after this class. After we're done with the dragon piece, there'll probably be a couple weeks off to finish things, and then we'll start another class. So, and I think what we're gonna do is, I'm pretty confident we're gonna do how to sculpt a robot. So we're gonna design a robot character, and I'm gonna go over all the techniques and tools and tips and tricks for making mechanical things, which is, if you don't have the right tools or tricks, it's very difficult. But I'm pretty confident in my process with doing mechanical things, and I think I can give you guys a lot of help making clay, which is see, clay does not, it likes to look very organic and very natural looking, right? It does not like to look like hard surfaces with clean lines. It does not like to look like that. So yeah, it's taking the clay out of its natural state. That's why it's difficult. Okay, let's go over to the gremlin class, see if this looks like there's some updates here. So oh, look at this. Finished the pirate. Okay. Is it too late to start the class? No? Okay, yeah. Okay, good, yeah. Clayton's got it. Yeah, you can join in these classes anytime. I'll check the classes every week. We'll go through them, so if you want feedback, you can join this class. This class is fully finished. You can check, there's playlists on Twitch and on YouTube to check out the How to Sculpt a Woodland Gremlin class. All right. Oh, I like the mustache. I would love a video turnaround of this. That's what I want to request. It looks really good. Went with the old sailor beanie there. Awesome. Yeah, great job. Yeah, you should take a nice little video turnaround of that, and also don't forget to post it in the gallery final pics here once you have your final shots. I just want to have them all in one place so we can scroll through this and see all that wonderful finished work. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for feedback. I'm gonna get on out of here, carry on with my weekend. They're all doing really good. Let's find someone to raid. I'm gonna get out of here. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be working on the Tyrannid Swarm. If you remember, we've pretty much produced all the parts, so what we'll be doing is kind of assembling we're bringing everything together this upcoming week. So hopefully I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. And yeah, let's see here. Who is online? Worm maybe. Miniatures Den is on. Texas Hula's on. Hey, you know what? Let's go raid Mr. Texas Hula. It's always nice to catch him. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for the tuning in. Thank you for the support, and I will see you all next time. Till then, my friends. Bye-bye.